Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Sajcast, episode 16, Imam Talk with Imam Nick Pelletier and Abdullah Smith. When I originally recorded this conversation in the summer of 2015, it wasn't meant for public consumption. I recorded it so that I could learn from the wisdom and experience of two people who graduated from the University of Medina before me, and who after graduating returned to the US and became Imams. So as someone who is in many ways trying to follow in their footsteps, it was extremely valuable for me to have an opportunity to ask them questions and get their advice. Now, Nick, he graduated from the College of Sharia in 2014. So around the time I was beginning my studies in Medina, he was graduating. And I always appreciated him answering my questions and giving me advice. It really helped me know what to expect as I moved forward. And as time moved on, he graduated, returned to the US, and was exploring different job opportunities. And it was the decree of Allah that we both happened to be in Atlanta during the summer of 2014. I was there visiting family, and he was there interviewing for an imam position at a masjid. So alhamdulillah, I was able to sit with him during that summer and learn about what he was going through after having graduated. And then it was the decree of Allah that a year later, in the summer of 2015, I was in Houston visiting family, and he had become the imam at a masjid in Houston about 7 months earlier. So again, alhamdulillah, I was able to sit with him and learn about his journey. Also, Abdullah Smith was a brother who had graduated from the College of Hadith in 2006. So he was many years ahead of Nick in terms of having graduated, and he had many years of experience working as an imam in the US. So he was able to give Nick a lot of valuable advice during his journey. So there was basically 3 generations of Medina students sitting together and exploring the topic of being an imam in America. So to wrap up this introduction, I just want to say that I felt it would be beneficial to make this conversation available to the public so that other students who are interested in becoming an imam can benefit and prepare themselves. And also it's an opportunity for the general public to get an idea of what it's like to be an imam so that they can have a bit of empathy regarding what imams go through. Without any further ado, this is episode 16, Imam Talk with Nick Pelletier and Abdullah Smith.
Okay, so basically, you're in year 1, university, you're eventually planning on coming home, and you're thinking, what most people are thinking is, what exactly do I need to study to prepare myself to come home? And I think, as the Sheikh over here has pointed out to me as well, is that if you're just looking to be an imam, you're probably sufficient with what you learn in the Mahad. There's going to be a lot of fiqh questions, like you saw today. There's a lot of fiqh questions that will come up that if you're humble enough to just pass on to somebody else, you can deflect those. Really what you need to know how to do as an imam is stand up in front of the people and maintain their attention span. And I think quite a vast number of people do just that. They cut and paste from the internet. You know, it's very easy to find. I mean, you could just go to Islam Q&A, find one of their heart softeners in English, make sure that it's translatable to Arabic, open up both windows, cut and paste into a document the English version, and then just cut and paste all of the ayat in Arabic, Quran in Arabic, in its appropriate place. Boom, you've got yourself a khutbah, or you've got yourself a lecture. Very simple, right? The thing that's going to differentiate you from fake really is the question and answer sessions, if you allow for such, because then you're going to have to move on your feet, and you're not prepared. And then people see, is this guy quoting a hadith or Quran or things of that nature. But to be an imam, the university does not prepare you, I think, for 90% of the work that you're going to do as an imam. You know, a lot of it is, do you know how to interact with people? Do you know how to deal with politics? Do you know how to realize somebody who's trying to set you up? Do you know how to not be gullible? And a lot of these things, if you don't have somebody guiding you, then you could fall into a lot of mistakes early on that you otherwise wouldn't have realized were, sort of foot traps for somebody. Hello. Is your house on fire?
There's some chicks. Hey Nick, call me. The guy that recorded.
Allahu Akbar. So, in general, what I'm trying to say is the university doesn't prepare you for this job, right? All of your technical, and I realized this a little bit when I was in the university because I was trying to teach Usul al-Thalatha to a group of sisters over the internet. And I started to realize that all of these taqsimat and all of these divisions of this and these 3 categories, and now you've got, 4 conditions under which you can call upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have to be present, they have to be alive, and you lose the people immediately, right? They just don't have the attention span for this stuff. If these people cared that much about the academic study of Islam, they would have gone to Medina. They didn't. They let you go to Medina so you could figure out how to make it seem attractive, so that they could be entertained while they sit in the masjid and listen to something that makes them feel good about themselves, or makes them feel good about the fact that they're sitting here trying to learn Islam and they're actually doing it. Because it's real easy to drive everybody away. Just start teaching Alfiya bin Malik and just go into some Nahu and Arab, and you'll have a few geeks by the end of the class and you've lost the other 50 people. So university isn't training you anything. The university, alright, let's look at the things, and help me if I forget something, but let's look at the major responsibilities of an imam. Leading salah. Okay? From a Quran aspect, the university does not prepare us to read the Quran. Nobody teaches us tajweed, nobody's teaching us proper recitation, because when you have a class of 100 students with one teacher, it's impossible for him to really give you the focus that you need. Okay? Second, there's no opportunity for a university student to lead prayer. I mean, unless you're going to go strong-arm Masjid bin Baz and just be like, I'm leading, there's no opportunity for you to lead prayer. So I started hyperventilating. And I can speak in front of people. I don't have any problem speaking in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. I've been on TV before. I'm not afraid to speak in front of people. I started hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe. I was so caught up, I couldn't breathe, and it was difficult. Nobody gives you the opportunity to lead salah. And so, for me, for example, it was very difficult this first night of Ramadan, because even though I lead Jum'ah, and there's probably a good 600, 700, 800 people behind me in Jum'ah, here I am in the first night of Tarawih, leading Salatul Isha, and God knows there's got to be 1,000 people behind me. And, your nervousness is, for whatever reason, because it's the Quran, or because it's Salah, or because it's your job, and because everybody's eye is on you, you don't get that. Nobody's giving you that practice. I have experience as a public speaker. I've done press conferences in front of Mitt Romney's office. I've been in front of cameras with lights on. That's not something that's difficult for me. But if you're not a public speaker, and the only time you do get the opportunity is once in the Jamia, they have everybody present something maybe, you're going to have a problem. If you can't get up in front of, 600 people without, that's a problem. So the ability to speak in front of everybody is really important. The ability to lead the salah in front of everybody. A lot of people don't want to be imams because they're not satisfied with their own recitation of the Quran. My recitation isn't perfect, but the last year in Medina I spent having somebody drill me in makharij and tajweed so that I could get to where I am now, which isn't perfect, but I look at it as an aspect of right now I need the job is pushing me to improve myself. But a lot of people don't want to be imams because they're embarrassed with their level of memorization or their level of recitation. Again, the university makes sure that you're able to answer a few questions in a Quran exam, and depending on the teacher that you had, I mean, I had teachers that just looked at my attendance, or I think somebody asked me to recite one ayat, go, okay, get out of here. Exam done. I mean, you had other teachers that if you made like 2 mistakes, they failed you. But some of the teachers, it's like, Mashi hal, go ahead. So they just make sure that you memorize that portion of the Quran for that semester. Now, if you forgot that portion that you memorized, which a lot of people probably did, then, well, you forgot that portion. And the other thing about the university is that you're so concerned with trying to keep your grades up that you're so focused on memorizing all of these different rulings, and okay, this time اختلف العلماء إلى 3 أقوال قال أبو حنيفة لا يجوز قال مالك يجوز قال أحمد وإمام الشافعي يعني تفصيل إذا حدث كذا يجوز وإذا حدث هذا لا يجوز ودليله. And you're trying to memorize this for like 200 questions in like Sharia, for example. I don't have time to even review Quran. I'm just trying to survive in this like ocean of Islamic studies. So, I had more Quran memorized before I got to Medina than I did after, because of the amount of the workload that you're under and the lack of ability to actually find a good and solid review program. Even the halaqat of Quran in the haram, they only give you a limited amount of time. It's not like it's at your own pace and you're just a number. And sometimes your turn, you don't get your turn that day. So Quran, you're not 100% prepared and you're not given the opportunity to lead salat. Then you look at speaking. How many times since you've been in the Jamia has somebody given you the opportunity to speak in the masjid? Or to just speak in class, never mind the masjid. Stand up in front of the class and teach class today. You review, come to class and teach. You're not given that opportunity. Never mind given the opportunity to stand in front of the people and now talk. Because the thing is like, we could be good BSers, right? Me and him, we could be really good BSers. If you wanted me to talk about something, I could probably talk about whatever you want me to talk about. But when you're talking about the deen, we're talking about Islam, if you have any fear of Allah, now you have to actually have some sort of dalil for what you're talking about. Okay? So now it's not the same thing. You have to actually know what you're talking about. So that makes the public speaking a little bit more difficult. Again, nobody's preparing you for that. They don't have a course called khutbah, where you give a khutbah and people critique your khutbah. Be like, you got to stop playing with your shirt. You got to stop sniffing. You got to stop saying You got to stop saying yani. You got to stop doing this. You weren't maintaining eye contact. That isn't there. And so that's a major part of your job. Counseling. My last year in the Jamia, if there were times where I'd be in the back of the class, I'd be reading counseling books. Because I looked at all of the different job descriptions. I see people want you to counsel people. I say, all right, well, let me look into this. So I took courses online through Christian universities that did pastoral counseling. I went through 1.5 textbooks while I was there in counseling, preparing myself to start understanding how that's done. And wallah, I learned a massive amount and had a lot of respect for the profession of counseling, that there's a science to it. Problem is, who in the Jamia teaches al-irshad? No, you don't study that. At-tawjih wal-irshad. And if you were to go buy books of tawjih wal-irshad, it's nothing like counseling books that you would find here in America. It's like they've got istilah, this, that, and it doesn't even touch on the type of stuff that you would deal with here. You got to counsel people. Even if the state in which you are in doesn't allow you to actually do counseling, dawah in a sense is a form of counseling. You're giving religious advice.
Religious counseling.
Right, religious counseling. So you have to think about, how do I deal and interact with this person? Our studies is very theoretical. It's not practical in the sense of that, yes, you might have learned that this is haram, but how do you deal with that person that's in that situation right there who's a human being? Somebody comes up to you and they want to accept Islam, but my husband's not interested. Okay? First,
now what?
Jamia student's just like, you have to divorce him, and the girl walks out of your room not Muslim. Now, some people won't even tell her. Me, I had that situation. I said, look, a Muslim girl is not supposed to be married to a non-Muslim man. Okay? But you staying with him be considered sinning, but your Islam is more important than that sin. And so everybody sins. I sin, you sin, he sins. Different people have different sins. If that's your shortcoming, okay, understand it's a sin. Ask Allah to guide your husband. Ask Allah to fix your situation. But at the same time, know that it's not the right way to do things. Okay? Other people, they're just going to walk in there and just, blow up the situation. Again, nobody talks to you about counseling. And like counseling, one of the methods of counseling is listening. And what do Jamia students want to do? We want to talk. So I'm the sheikh, or I know. We want to talk. We want to run our mouths. Counseling is the art of shutting up. Al-hulm, just being like super patient and super quiet, waiting for the person to just let it all out. Okay? Does the Jamia teach you how to interact with women? No. That's half the community. And they're probably more like 70% of the community because they're more active than the men. Does the Jamia teach you how to deal with a girl who's crying? Right? How do you deal with a girl that's crying? I had a girl, she went through a whole tissue box. I'm like, you owe me a tissue box. She just went through my whole thing of tissues. The Jamia does not prepare you for legal situations. You need to understand the law. If anybody comes to you and tells you, or that as a minor under the age of 18, they have been abused in any way, shape, or form, you have to call the police. You have to call the police. Even if you feel like that kid is lying, you have to call the police. You are not a detective. You are not a police officer. There are people who are detectives and police officers, and they do not like people who are not detectives and police officers trying to do their job for them. And they will not look kindly, nor will they treat you nicely. We have to understand the law. Does the Jamia talk to you about? You have to understand the legal ramifications of the things you say and do. They don't talk to you about that. Right? So there's a lot of things that alright, if somebody's being physically, sexually abused, I've got to let somebody know. I can't sit back. Well, first of all, morally, you can't allow that stuff to go on. Legally is a whole other issue. You have to understand that, if you're like, maybe that's not true, I've got to get more information. If somebody comes and says so-and-so is being, or was, raped, you have to elevate those sort of situations.
You put the institution in the liability if you don't.
Right. And so you have to understand that other people might want to take a side of caution before jumping to the gun and saying, I'm going to call the police on so-and-so for whatever action they're doing. Right? Same thing happens with people who want to talk about groups overseas, people who want to talk about sympathizing for. You have to understand the reality of your situation and understand how does law enforcement view whatever is going on or whatever you're listening to. Nobody's going to talk to you about that or educate you on how to deal with those sort of things. Even your job, when you get a job as an imam, nobody's going to sit you down and say, here's the legal code of your state and this is what you can and can't do. Classes, you get hired somewhere, you're going to be expected to teach from the jump. Right? Oh, we want Arabic classes. Well, hope you've brushed up on your Arabic because people want you to teach Arabic. People might want you to teach something that is outside of your field. If you went to the College of Hadith, I'm terribly sorry. Nobody wants to study Mustalah. Right? Am I right? Nobody wants to study Mustalah Hadith. Sorry, guys. But nobody wants to study Ilm al-Rijal. Nobody wants to study that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? You know what people want to study? Seerah, Tafsir, maybe fiqh. Right?
They want to listen, they don't want to study.
Yeah, they want to listen, they don't want to study. So, you have to have a bit of an arsenal. So I was teaching online, and so I have a whole fiqh book that I was writing from fiqh al-ibadat that I've got prepared. I don't have to prepare for my lesson. I show up, these are my notes. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got almost a year of lessons of fiqh ready to go. Okay? But I was like, let me teach Arba'in an-Nawawi. Okay? You don't study that in the Jamia. You might have studied it outside. But did you take down notes that you can actually deliver to people? What other aspects? Yeah, teaching. So with regards to teaching, you have to realize that, do you have any material ready to go? because what you study in the university is all very beneficial for you, but I don't know, what do you... it's just not stuff that people want to study or listen to. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult. Like, and I mean, I've been kind of like more of not appeasing in that aspect. I've been teaching people what I feel like they need to know. So I've been going through Aqidah. I went through Tariq al-Tashri', which most people probably aren't interested in, talking about how do we get from the Prophet ﷺ all the way to Abu Hanifa. But I feel like they need to know that stuff. But numbers in class, they nosedive when you do that. What else do you need to do as an imam? So classes, Jummah, khutbah, counseling. The politics side is, I mean, alhamdulillah, I've had a mentor. But most people don't have somebody that can help them navigate through what to do and what not to do. Such as make sure you document everything. Make sure any agreement goes via email. Assume people are, from day one, assume somebody's going to try to fire you. And you want to make sure that you cover yourself in every way, shape, or form, that you have permission to do the things that you're doing. Even the things that you have permission to do generally, just it's not going to harm you in any way, to make sure that you cover all bases. You know, the politics side is just like, is a huge aspect of the job that I don't think people prepare you for. After that, I mean, fiqh, as much as you can understand fiqh is really important, because people are going to ask you fiqh questions all the time. They're going to always be asking, like you see today, people are asking fiqh questions. Your ability to answer the questions and or be able to know that you don't know the answer is very, very important. After that, I don't know.
Do you have like a curriculum you can suggest, like, okay, you should spend the next couple of years, and if you study this, that, and the other, then inshallah you should come back?
Well, there's a difference, because that's not, I didn't answer the question like that. What I was saying was how you become able to be an imam.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you need to go to the jamia to be an imam. I think that most of our most prominent imams in America are not that big students of knowledge.
I mean, jamia aside, but just like, you know, what you would recommend, like,
what I would
if you
suggest,
study this, you'll be in good shape, you know, these books or these subjects. Like, if you could go back in time to prepare, like, how would you have prepared, you know what I mean? Aside from everything you just mentioned, you know, but more like specific practical books and stuff.
I don't think I would have done anything differently, because my second part of my answer is that I think that everybody should try to get through beginner and intermediate level books in every subject, so that when you want to specialize in something, you at least have the verbal or the vocabulary to understand all of the different subjects. And when you want to go back to listen to somebody's lecture or read a book, you're not lost because you just don't even understand the terminology. Mm. What I did was I imagined that I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere without a sheikh, and so I need to go through all of these books to understand the terminology. And I went and I got every audio from the Haram. I downloaded every audio that I could possibly find from Egypt, from Yemen, from all over the world. I put it into a terabyte, 700 gigabytes of audio lectures of everything that's been taught for every major subject in Islam, from history, from fiqh, seerah, tafsir, usul al-fiqh, usul al-tafsir, da'wah, maqasid al-shar'iyya, everything I could ever find, and I categorized it, put it in a folder, and then on top of that I got every PDF I could find of, you know, I got a terabyte of Islamic books in PDF, so that I could continue my studies once my access to scholars and teachers is cut off. So I don't think that you should abandon your academic studies to prepare to come home and be an imam. Because I think that if you prepared properly to be a student of knowledge, then when you come home, it's easier for you to transition into being an imam. But if you prepare yourself to be an imam, you're not going to be able to transition into being a student of knowledge. It's going to be very difficult. So what I would say is, you know, make sure you go through a book of fiqh at least. You know, I would fiqh at least get through a medium-sized book of fiqh. Make sure you go through a book of tafsir. Whether it's tafsir al-Sa'di or Jalalain or something of that nature at that beginner level, Muyassar al-Tafsir. Go through Mustalah al-Hadith, Nakhbat al-Fiqh al-Bayquniya, these, books. Make sure you don't have to do like they do Tadrib al-Rawi, but understand the terminology. You have a background in it. Go through Warakat, then move on to something else. Ma'aqad al-Fusul or whatever. I don't know if you have a madhab, stick to whatever is suitable in that madhab. Maybe the Shafis have something you can use, or Malikis or whatever. Seerah, have read Rahiq al-Maktoum 1,000 times. And just go through all of the different subjects. Build yourself a massive library. Don't listen to the people that tell you don't buy books. That's probably the most foolish thing ever. Buy as many books as you can. Come back, blow $2,000 shipping your books back. Bring as many books back as you possibly can. Absolute worst case scenario is you pass them on to your children. But bring books back. Those things are invaluable. So like preparing to be an imam as opposed to preparing to be a student, I think in the Jamia what you should be doing is preparing yourself to be a student of knowledge off your training wheels. I think we were with Sheikh Jarbu'. We asked them that question about how do we go home and act as imams and answer all these questions and deal with these people when the whole time we're here you guys are cautioning us away from, speaking without knowledge and things of that nature. He's like, his answer, paraphrased by me, was basically, you guys should have your training wheels off at this point. You've gone through the university, you've sat in the lectures in the haram, you should have an understanding of how to go back to the source material at this point in time. I'm not saying you're a mufti, but at the same time you should have that foundation. And then after that, prepare yourself to basically be in Wisconsin with nobody to help you out. Somebody has a problem in the masjid, you say, look, like I said to the guy today, I don't know, let me go look it up. You can't be afraid to tell people you don't know. And there's people in the Jamia will tell you no, you have to answer, because they won't think you're a sheikh, and then they'll go to the deviant down the street. That's nonsense. I tell people I don't know constantly, and it doesn't slow down the questions at all. People just keep asking and asking and asking. I don't know, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your take.
Without going back down the road of repeating things that were already said, I like to add that one of the things that an imam happens to an imam that many people don't know is the toll on their own iman. Because really, as an imam, you're really getting paid to be a good Muslim. Like, that's your job. You're getting paid to be a good Muslim. So in America, we have the culture of when I'm not at work, I don't want to be doing my job. That's why hairdressers, those ladies, their hair is always a mess. People who clean toilets for a living, their toilet is always dirty. Because they don't want to come home and do that job. So what happens is, as an imam, you come home, you fall into the same trap if you're not careful. So my advice is that while you're there at the Jamia, you need to keep with you a consistent reading of books of Raqa'iq, maybe like Riyadh al-Salihin, to remind you of why the sunnahs before Fajr are important, the sunnahs after Dhuhr are important, giving sadaqah is important. The little things of the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ that we do in order to get close to him, we need to make sure that we remember those things, because a lot of times in the university we get caught up in aqwal and sabab al-khilaf and taqsimat and ta'rifat, and we lose the simple importance of what we say in ruku'. What are the different things that the Prophet ﷺ said in ruku'? What were the different things he said in sujood? And you see, we're following the sunnah, but how much of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ are we actually following? And I think that books like Targhib al-Tarhib, al-Mundhari, Riyadh al-Salihin by Nawawi, and as elementary as they may sound to a university student, I think it's important for our own iman. Because one of the things I remember, I was talking to some of the older students, and I used to ask them, we always talk to people, and we give and give and give, but who talks to us? Where do we go when we need an iman recharge? Right? Who teaches us, and who whips us into shape when our iman goes low? The people have us to remind them. Who do we have to remind us? And so I think that it's very important for us to always keep, a book, like I said, like Riyadh al-Salihin, Kitab al-Adhkar, things like that. The last point I wanted to add is, the university, the university is there just to give you keys to the knowledge. It's not the knowledge in of itself. So while you're there, one of the things that I wish I could do, if I could do it all over again, I would, while studying, I would actually be reading the books of the Salaf. I would read from cover to cover books like Kitab al-Tawheed by Ibn Khuzaymah, Kitab al-Sharia by al-Ajurri. I would actually read Tafsir al-Tabari from beginning to end. I would actually sit down and make sure before I left the Jamia I would have read Al-Qira'ah Khalf al-Imam by al-Bukhari. I would have actually read Fath al-Bari from beginning to end. Maybe I would have read the Muqaddimah several times. These things I would have actually put a lot of time into reading them and understanding them. And I think that's something that the university students don't do enough of. We take for face value definitions and taqsimat. Tawheed is how many categories? It's 3. Okay? What's the definition of each? But where does that come from? Do you have an evidence that provides you, that you can actually, you're teaching people this now. You're going back to your people to teach them. And they ask you, well, where did you get this from? What are you going to tell them? Sheikh so-and-so said? I mean, we could do that, but do we really want to make tarbiyah of our people just on what a sheikh said? Or do we want to give our people evidence and give them tarbiyah of dalil? And so I think that we need to, as a university student, I think that it's very important for you to, your definitions that you're given, you do some research on where did those definitions come from. The fact that Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen defined it as such and such is great. However, Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala got that from somewhere. And in the in the science of research, they call that a secondary source. And we should really be quoting primary sources and only citing secondary sources when we can't find the primary source. Too many students I see don't, like, their knowledge is limited to secondary sources, which is okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if you want to be the complete package, I believe that you need to be aware, you need to know the secondary sources and what is said on that level, but you also need to know the knowledge of the primary sources. So I would say to you, I remember one time, and I'm going to stop here. I went to Sheikh Abdullah al-Ansari. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's Sheikh Hamad's son. He has the library that's behind the university. I went to him to ask him about some of the fitna that was going on in Medina when I was there. And I said, Sheikh, I need your advice. What should I do? All this fitna going on. He said, she said, I don't know who's right, who's wrong. And he says to me, to Sheikh Abdullah, have you memorized the whole Quran? I said, no. He said, okay. He said, have you memorized Bulugh al-Maram? I said, no. He said, okay. He said, have you read Kutub al-Sitta from beginning to end. I said, no. He said, well, I think you have bigger problems to worry about. That was his answer. He never. That was where he left it. And so I would say that to you, while you still have an opportunity, memorize the Quran, memorize Bulugh, read Kutub al-Sitta, even just reading it. Those are my advices. If you do that, everything that he's mentioned, a lot of the counseling stuff and reading on how to interact with people and public speaking, and then you also have solidified your knowledge with primary sources, secondary sources. You've memorized a nice, good portion of the Quran. You're solid with that portion of the Quran. You've memorized a good, solid portion of Hadith. You've read the 6 books of Hadith. Now you'd be an Imam that was powerful. You'll be effective. You would be able to get things done. Your message would reach the people. And you'd actually have a message with substance.
You'd get fired.
Those are things.
I would just add that definitely like making sure that you have a significant portion of the Quran memorized solidly is going to be better than having the whole Quran choppy. Because like my situation where I didn't have a lot of time to review, and even when I came home I was so stressed about trying to find a place to live. My wife and kids are in a different country, stranded, waiting for me to get them here, and like you're in a bad environment now. You know, making sure that that's solid. Another thing, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what he's saying, and to add on to that, if you have the last 5 juz of Quran solid,
you're good.
You would be an imam perfect. Because in Ramadan, most of these masajid, they hire some qari who has this beautiful voice. So that's what they want in Ramadan, right? So if you have the last 5 juz of Quran down, you would never have a problem with leading salah, because your longest salah is going to be a page and a half, a rak'ah. And people are going to complain that that's too long. And if you're jumping, within these 5 juz, you have them down solid, and you're jumping around between Surah Al-Ahqaf, Surah Al-Mulk, Surah Al-Mujadila, Surah Al-Saf, Jumu'ah, a little bit of Juz Amma. You're jumping around like that. People aren't even going to know where you're reciting from.
Yeah, most of them don't know the Arabic at all, or haven't memorized half of Juz Amma themselves.
So you're going to seem very, your raka'at are a page and a half, each rak'ah, and every time you show up for salat, you're reading a different portion. They're like, man, this guy's...
Because if they're on your back for your recitation of the Quran, your life's going to be hell.
Yeah.
And that happens. Especially because you will have Hufad in the community with you. The only other thing that I was thinking about is just my experience is when you don't do what he's talking about, is I left Medina broken in half. I was like, I remember when I first got to Medina, alhamdulillah, I didn't need an alarm clock, and I was actually calling the adhan in Bin Baz. I was waking up, I was going to pray tahajjud, and I was calling the adhan. By the time I was leaving Medina, I was trying to convince myself to get out of bed, because if I stayed in bed, that was kufr. And I left Medina, like, I finally figured out that I was depressed when, after going to see doctors for like all sorts of different pains that I had in my teeth, finally some dentist, instead of just taking my money and busting my teeth open, said, that sounds like you're just stressed and you're grinding your teeth at night, and that's causing your jaw and your teeth to hurt. And like headaches that I was having for like 3 days in a row, that I was popping painkillers, and I was the type of person that I didn't take medicine, period, for like years. So I left Medina in like a bad state. Then you come back here, and like he was saying earlier, there's just a lot of fitna that you're going to deal with when you get back. I mean, number one, women. you can live in the Islamic University of Medina and not see a woman for months. And it gets to the point where I remember some brothers saying they don't go to the haram because it's a fitna. Because there's women there and they're not married and they're struggling, you know. Whereas you come home and it's in your face. Now, I love going to the gym. In Medina, there's no girls in the gym. Girls, they don't have a place for the girls at the gym. It's just all guys. It's just known. I don't even think they need a sign, right? You come here, and, you know, God, the things that you see in the gym, in 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, these places, I mean, this is, never mind that, what you see outside in the street, right? We're here in Houston, and, like, it's hot. It's summer all year round, right? So, like, short shorts, I don't even know if those are shorts. What the hell is she wearing? You know, yoga pants, all this stuff is just like it's in your face. I get a ride home from the airport, and, you know, I can smell something in the car. Smell something in the car. Smells like somebody fishbowled the car before I got in. And I haven't smelled marijuana in like 10 years. You know? So your iman is broken. You're by yourself. You know, your situation is bad. You're poor. You don't have any money. Your family's somewhere else probably because you're probably moving around. I mean, you're traveling, trying to find work. Everybody keeps asking you for your YouTube videos, and you don't have any YouTube videos because you were busy trying to study, not put yourself out on the internet. And, like, there's a lot of, now everything costs money, and you don't have money because just sending your books home probably costs money unless you got it done through the Jamia, which God knows how that works, right? And then just traveling from one country to another, moving a family is a process, right? It's not like you're going to sell all your furniture in Medina and get like megabucks for it, right? Just getting out of the country costs money. If you're like me, you blew half your money on buying books that you were trying to send home anyway because you're like, I'm never going to be able to get this opportunity to send this many books home again. Maybe you've got a family that can, you know, support you. But if you're like me, 3 days at home and they're like, when are you leaving? You know, so if you don't have a place to stay, where are you going to stay? And all of my clothes are thobes. I've got to buy a whole new wardrobe unless I'm going to wear thobes that are meant for the desert in New England when it's going to hit 15 degrees below zero. It's not going to work, right? So, like, now I need a whole new wardrobe. I need boots. I need gloves. I need hats. I need stuff for this type of weather. Clothing's going to cost you a ton of money, right? You need some mode of transportation. There is no stick your hand out and get somebody to pick you up from the side of the road anymore. You need a car. Well, how much are you going to get a car for? Are you going to get yourself a clunker that you're going to be having to fix every other day that's going to break down on you? Or are you going to get yourself a nice car? How many thousands of dollars is that going to cost? When you even find an apartment, if somebody will rent to you, which is a whole other issue because now you're working for some Islamic organization, and while it's illegal for them to discriminate, there's a whole lot of easy ways for them to just not give you the house. But once you get your house, kitchen table, dining room table, couches, bed frame, bed mattresses, carpets if you don't have carpets, you know, coffee maker, blender, kettle, water filter, refrigerator, dishwasher, clothes washer, clothes dryer. I mean, I can keep going. Ironing board. You know, even that small little stuff you think is just like inexpensive, that's a lot of money. And you're broke, and you don't have a job, and nobody's supporting you, and you got people offering you jobs that are going to be basically poverty. So there's a lot of stress that is involved in that. And if you come out of Medina broke, like a lot of people I would assume do, because, you know, maybe their experience wasn't this big, long period of like iman boosts, like we call these like iman highs, you know. Maybe you went to one of these lectures where you was at ISNA conference or ICNA, or you went to Al Maghrib Institute thing, you left like, yeah, I'm Muslim. Well, you know, اختلف العلماء إلى ثلاثة أقوال فقال الحنفية لا يجوز. I mean, this is tough stuff. What is it? Sharia, istilahin. All of these istilahat and all of this stuff, it's rare that you get a teacher that's gonna, like, you know, really pump you up in class. So you're just like, going through static material constantly, like dry material. So you could come back like busted. And then the situation here is not gonna be very welcoming for everybody if you didn't set yourself up beforehand for that situation. So I would add that, I guess.
Jazakumullah khair.
Try not to get too discouraged.
Yes, people don't ever really think about the fact that your money is going to be limited. So you might not be able to afford a dining room set, like plates, and real spoons and real forks. So you're eating off of paper plates, plastic cups, paper sporks, right? You don't really realize the psychological effect that has on you and your family. Like you look at sometimes you get a down moment, you're gonna actually look at your situation. You're in your mother's house.
6 months I was living in my parents' house.
You know,
like really bad situation.
like I don't own anything. Like everything has just been given to me. If I need to go somewhere, I gotta ask, can you take me? Can I borrow? Like as a man, you start to really feel like, what am I doing?
You've got a wife and kids that are either with you in somebody's bar. I mean, I remember one brother, I think the brother that was up with us in New Jersey that came, he was living in somebody's basement.
Yeah.
I was sleeping in my parents' basement when my family was overseas.
But, you know, another thing too, then you're going to have to take into consideration your peers from, like, wherever you're from. You know, your non-Muslim peers, we all went to school together. You bump into somebody at the store. Hey, Frank, what's going on, man? What you doing? Oh, I own my own business. Yeah, man, we're doing like $50 million in sales. Oh, it's great. Yeah, you bump into somebody else. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I just got promoted to, division manager. I just bought a house with a pool. And, like, you're starting to see everyone who's on your level doing all these great things.
And then they turn around and ask you, what are you doing? Well, I just spent the past 7 years studying Islam, and now I live in my parents' basement.
Yeah, and you start to, then they start throwing things out there like, man, listen, why don't you shoot me a resume? I'll take care of you. You're like, wow, like it's amazing. They give you this dream of glamour of getting a job, which they probably will. And now you're fighting with yourself. I just spent the last 6-7 years.
So I could come home and do something else.
Was that just a waste of time? There's a lot of psychological stuff that comes along with it, which is why I said a person has to maintain his own iman. His tawakkul, his khawf, his khashya, his khushu', his dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tadarru' ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because without all of that, you're going to fall victim. You're going to start shaving your beard. You're going to start hanging out with women.
I'm going to start taking a hit off that pipe instead of just passing. I'm all set.
It's going to happen.
I mean, that happened to me a couple times. I was with some, I hadn't seen people in like 10 years. Some people I hadn't seen in since I graduated from college, I hadn't seen some people. So it's like 10 years I hadn't seen some people. I just wanted to, you're alone. My situation was a little bit different because my family was still stuck overseas. But you're alone and you want some social comfort. Like I feel like I'm just depressed and by myself, and when I'm by myself I'm gonna get into trouble. And then you're hanging out with people, and I remember I was in an art gallery. I'm just chilling, talking to people in the art gallery. They're asking me about Islam and stuff, and my friend's in the back around the alleyway getting high. Come back in, and you're shocked by stuff. Like now marijuana, anything under an ounce is a misdemeanor. It's just like $100 fine. I'm like, people just, there's a lot of different stuff that you're not. I would add on top of that, one of the good things that I would say for people to do is to try to reach out to the people who are already back home that are willing to conversate with them. I think one of the things that saved me is that I've got at least 2 graduates that are within my area that I keep in contact with on a pretty frequent basis. Because I think if they weren't here, who am I going to talk to? I'd end up talking to the wrong people and getting the wrong advice. So making sure that you have people to keep in contact with that are willing to, work you through situations if you do get a job as an imam, because oftentimes your initial reaction to how you would deal with the situation might just get you fired. And now somebody listening might be like, whoa, hey, wait a second, where's your principles? That's all nice for somebody to say who's not in your situation, but at the same time, if you've got a wife and kids to feed, you got to pick your battles.
Because after a while, you start to realize, because when you lose a job as an engineer, you go up the street, get another job in a company up the street, right? You stay in your same place, kids stay in the same schools, you really don't move. When you get fired as an imam, you're picking up and leaving the state, most likely, which is not easy.
Just moving is going to cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah, thousands of dollars to move. And even if they're paying, the new masjid is paying for you to move, I'm telling you, I've done it, trust me. I've come from Medina to Florida, went from Florida to Missouri, went from Missouri to Texas. I know it's not easy. You get tired, and then your kids, they have to pick up and move again, leave their friends to make new friends. I mean, it takes a really big toll on everyone. It takes just about a year and a half before you truly get settled in a new community, learning your neighbors, learning
just the streets.
Learning the streets. Like Tony, I've been here 5 years. I know Tony. You know Tony?
Was your neighbor or the guy at the pizza place?
The pizza place.
Yeah.
Like me and him were like on first name basis. Like I know him. I know his children. I know his grandchildren. Like it's amazing. I know his grandchildren. I remember when his granddaughter was first born. So now you have roots, and the community start to feel comfortable. Now you get up and move, and you got to go somewhere, and nobody knows you. Nobody knows you, and you don't know anyone. It's very, even the Muslims are very standoffish, because
they're not going to let you in easy.
Not going to let you in easy. Not at all.
Especially if you're not from their culture.
You're not from their culture, they're not going to let you in very easy. You can get in, but it's going to take a while. You're going to feel isolated for a little bit, and then here we go again. The psychological issues. What am I doing? I just moved. No one here likes me. I'm the imam, but why doesn't anybody talk to me? I mean, I can count on one hand how many times in the 5 years that I've lived here that I've been invited to people's houses. And Nick would be included in that. I was the imam. I never got invited to people's house. Never. And it does something to you. My wife, all her friends were friends from outside of the masjid. So you have a social aspect of because somebody said, well, you're the leader, and it's lonely at the top. I would accept that if you were the leader. You know what I'm saying? If I was the leader, then I said, okay, yeah, I can see that. But I'm not. I'm an employee. You have social needs. You can't neglect those things. Your wife is going to have social needs. You can't neglect that. Your children have social needs. You can't neglect that. And the more, because if your wife and kids, they don't get their social needs met outside in the society, at the masjid or whatever, they're going to look to you. Now, they want to talk. Your wife wants to talk. Why don't you shut up? Why don't you go find some friends or something? I mean, your wife, she's going to start talking to you like you're one of the ladies. Like in her conversation that she would usually have with her girlfriends, now she wants to have with you. That you may not really find it as in, the amount of electrolytes in a banana. I mean, that doesn't really, that's not, okay, great, honey, And now, because you're not paying attention to her the way that she wants you to, now she starts nagging and complaining. You have all this stress because you want to move, you trying to move the family to a higher level, make decisions, and she's nagging you about, Chiquita bananas. You're like, lady, don't you realize I'm trying to figure us, a way out of this rut, and you worried about some bananas? But to her, it's not necessarily the bananas, it's just the issue of her feeling like she doesn't have any social outlets, things like that. And these are all things that you have to deal with, when you're moving, which is why you don't want to move. You don't want to move, you don't get fired. You don't want to get fired, you have to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that like just because you don't want to get fired if somebody says, all right, we're going to start worshiping the grave, or we're going to have somebody buried under the minbar, that you accept that. But somebody disrespects you, because a lot of times it's not religious stuff. It's just basically trampling on what you would perceive as your authority in the place.
Yeah.
And some of them will do that on purpose, intentionally.
They'll test you.
You
They
know?
want to test your manhood.
So sometimes it's religious stuff. I could but won't give some examples, but sometimes it's religious stuff. So, you just have to, I think, be careful about, the battles that you pick and make sure that you don't.
Yeah, you don't want...
I think the best thing is to have somebody like, a lot of times I will call someone and say, hey, there's a couple of the other Imams also in our organization that are from Medina. Call them up and just basically say, this just happened, what do I do? Because knowing that you're a hothead and that if you get pushed too far, what you would like to do and how you would like to react might not always be the best thing to do. And so somebody else being able to just, who's had that experience before, be like, these are your options. You do this, this is going to happen. You do this, this is going to happen. This is what I advise you to do. And then you're on your own to make your decision. That sort of stuff can be a bit difficult. But yeah, the university doesn't prepare you in general to come home and be an imam. And the reality is for what the people need as an imam, you don't necessarily need to go to the university.
Yeah.
I think he was pointing out one time, he said that we should all be resident scholars, and we should be training somebody else who just sort of wants to be the charismatic speaker and stand in front of the community and give lectures. Because, we have some people in the community that can talk, but they don't have necessarily all of the knowledge, or they just need to be guided a little bit. I think just a general understanding of the Sharia really sort of helps you in your interactions with people and understanding what are the priorities in Islam, what's the pecking order of things. This girl comes to the masjid, she's not wearing hijab, she doesn't pray, and somebody wants you to yell at her because they saw her kissing some boy. It's like, well, she don't pray. What do I care about who she's kissing? You know what I mean? Just understanding general priorities, those things will definitely help. That's about it.
Yeah, you got a lot. What we just imparted on you was years worth of mistakes.
Well, I've got about 7 months.
Yeah.
But he's got 5 years of mistakes.
No, 6. What's 2015?
6 years.
I came home in 2006. No, it's been what? 9 years now. 9 years of making foolish comments and mistakes and wrong fatwas and misquoting ayat and getting into fights at the masjid. I always think about him, may Allah forgive me for what happened between him and I, because he's dead now. And a couple years ago, I was about to punch him in the mouth at the masjid. He pushed me. And
I pushed him.
And I lost it. He put his hands on me first, but still, I was out of character. And the stress of me losing my job, where I was making decent money to take care of myself, now having to work in a factory where I was making, like $10 an hour, not even enough money to take care of myself. And then I came to the masjid, and then the people who were responsible for me being in this situation that I'm in now, now he pushes me. That's enough to send me over the edge. And then, afterwards, I thought about it, and I think I overreacted because he pushed me. It didn't hurt, except it hurt my pride. That's really what it was. And if I would have fought him, then I would have been fighting over my pride, not over, defending myself from harm or defending Islam or anything like that. And I would have been it would have been personal, and that's bad. So you just gotta really, you gotta really watch yourself, and having good people around you, it helps a lot. People that you can talk to who are not from the community that you're serving. Don't ever talk about your problems with anyone that has anything to do with your community. If you have a problem to talk about that you need talking to, call somebody. Talk to the walls. Talk to some. I don't care how much of a friend that person in your community says they are, how much they tell you, oh, you can trust me. Don't. Take your problems to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you need to talk to somebody, call Nick. That's it. And it's for your own good, for your own protection.
I still haven't mastered that one.
Yeah, you can't talk to these people. Because you don't know, because if one day, remember you were saying how sometimes on some issues they're with you, and then some issues they move against you. You never know.
What issue is going to be the issue of the day? Right.
When they move against you, are they going to use that previous information against you?
It's like a crazy chess game.
Yeah. You have to be a master.
You have to be a master politician, while at the same time trying to guide people to Islam. It's like you're basically fighting a battle while you're trying to save a sinking ship. That's hard.
And, one of the things that I thought about is, the siyasa of the Anbiya. Because, they had politics. Actually, even the word that the Prophet ﷺ used in the hadith of Sahih Muslim about Bani Israel, kana yasusum al-Anbiya. The word was actually siyasa that was used. So there is a type of siyasa that's required in order to do this job. It's not like in Saudi Arabia where you can just, sit in a council of ulama and just be, speak your mind or whatever have you. The Imam of the masjid in Medina, all he really does is comes, makes salah, and he leaves. Gives a khutbah, he leaves. That's not going to be your job. Your job as an imam is going to be much more in depth
and demanding.
You're going to have much more interaction with the people. I used to get in trouble because I didn't know that people expected me to engage them. You have to be engaging. You have to. I told Nick on the Eid, go up and down the rows and look everyone in the eye and shake everyone's hand. I don't care if you're shaking 300 hands. You need to do that. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. You need to show up early and shake everybody's hand. After Jumu'ah, right? You need to stand at the door and give salams to everybody on their way out. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for coming. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for coming. Right? It sounds real, like you don't find these examples in the Prophet, from the Prophet ﷺ. It's not something that he did, right? But if you want to survive in this job here in the States, you're going to have to do that. It's really a lot, man. I'm telling you, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I'll be honest with you, when I was in the University of Missouri, I taught there for a couple years. I used to go to their library because they had these journals on pastoral care. Amazing. and I know it's Christian, and I used to weed through their Christian stuff, but their science of how the pastor should behave with his congregation was amazing. They actually do studies on like when the pastor arrives, you know, which door does he come in? Does he come in from the back of the congregation? Is he coming through the front of the congregation? How does he interact with people through certain circumstances? All of that is it's a study. It's a science, and they've studied it, and they have these big academic journals about this stuff. It's amazing, and you really would benefit, because I don't know that the Muslims have written anything like this. So if you were going to go into this profession, then it would be wise to read some of these things, not because you only want to learn from the Christians per se, but because a lot of how they interact with their congregation is going to be what you need in order to interact with your congregation. It's just showing up to pray and then leave. That was one of the reasons why I got fired from one of my jobs. It wasn't that I wasn't there, as they were saying that the community felt distant. They felt like I wasn't, like they felt like I didn't care about them, because I would show up, pray, make my dhikr, pray my sunnahs, and I leave. Because sometimes I would sit there, look around. Everyone else is getting up and leaving. They don't need me, because if they did, they'd ask me questions. I'm available. You want to know something? I'll tell you. No one asks anything. I leave.
Basically, one of the things that really, really helps is trying to memorize everybody's names, which is really difficult. I'm very bad at names. Memorize everybody's names. When you see them, shake their hand, look in their face, smile, and don't leave eyesight with them until they leave eyesight with you, and don't let go of their hand until they let go of yours.
And you need to say their name. That's how you remember it. That's how I do it. Abdul Kareem, Assalamu alaikum. Then you got to remember their kids too. How's Abdul Rahman doing? You got that. That's the type of stuff that makes them feel like you care about them. That you said their name, and you said their child's name. It's a big game.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أهلا بشر كيف حالك؟
الحمد لله.
ما شاء الله.
I guess I'm the only person.
Sajid.
Yeah.
All of y'all are with the. I'm the only person.
So what's going on, guys?
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Good.
Let's sit next to this guy, man. You know, I like to stay away from him.
That concludes episode 16. At the end there, you just heard someone else entering the room. That was a brother by the name of Yahya Sufi, who also graduated from the University of Medina and became an Imam in Texas. So that was a very special and memorable day for me to be able to sit with 3 Medina University graduates and American Imams. So Jazakumullahu khairan to the brothers for recording this episode, and thank you everyone for listening. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.